Good evening, Michigan. It is so glad to be back to you guys. It's nice to have you guys here. It's been, well, it seems like forever, but YouTube only gave me a week ban. That Operation Fast Track, they didn't like, I don't think they liked that. I don't think they liked that event and us giving you guys all that information because that prompted them to look into my page and see that I had interviews with uh, Patrick Colbeck on there, as well as Melissa Carone, which prompted them to delete those videos. You can still see those videos on my Facebook page, so mine's O Michigan, and they'll be on Rumble soon as well. You guys will be able to go over and check out the new Rumble page that we got building over there. But tonight we have a very special guest with us, another governor candidate for 2022. Something that we all need to be involved in as these elections in 2022. We don't get nothing done if we sit at home. I've heard so many people say, I'm not voting anymore ever again. We want the exact opposite. We know how they did and what they did. And there's certain words we're not going to say anymore. We're going to use words like injections and the scare, and we're going to do things like that around here now so that we can try to keep coming to you guys on YouTube. But we know how they did what they did. And to counteract that, we need everybody out there come 2022 and 2024. That's how we counteract that. We don't want to leave them with any to come up with in white vans in the middle of the night to come to the building, and James Craig might have had a hand in that. But yeah, we want to make sure that candidates like Donna and Ryan and Steven and Christina and Matt, we want to make sure that these candidates all have a voice in 2022 and beyond, because these are the kind of people that one of us can be one day, that one of your kids can be one day. These are the type of people that want to change the world. And as we do at the beginning of every episode, we're going to let Donna have the floor for a little while here so that she can tell you how she's involved with things, what she's doing, what she's done, a little bit of her history and background. I know it's really diverse from what I heard, and I think you guys are going to love hearing about her and her plans for our state come 2022. What do you think, Donna?
Well, what have you heard, first of all? Because the background, I guess my background is pretty diverse, and I've got quite a resume. I've been in business for a long time. Oh, come on, hang on a second. I've been in business for a long time, and I guess I get asked a lot on why am I running, and I was asked to run about 5 years ago, and I was just like, why do you guys want me to run? This is going to be your stupidest moment, because if things are bad, I'm going to call it out. I'm not a person who's going to sit back and just kind of let things skate by, and that's kind of how I've always run my life, my businesses and such. I'm one of the only female pipeline owners and pipeline company owners in the United States of America. And what that means is we work on pipelines, and we do repair, we do some installation and that sort of thing. And people probably don't realize how many pipes there are actually underground. And if we don't maintain them and keep them in good repair, they blow up and people get killed. And so that's what we do. We do compressor stations. That's a union company and such. And it's a very interesting company. So I've worked with all of the industrial regulations and that sort of thing, and I've rewritten safety standards and such. And so it's a very interesting process. And so I understand energy very, very well. I understand the economics of it, how it works, and how it really affects our lives on a daily basis. We also own a very large rail facility. It's our own short line railroad, and it's on the busiest superhighway in North America. Our building is 5,000 feet long and 575 feet wide. We work with all the major fleets, and we do reclaiming of canola and molasses solids at the bottom of cars. We are a 1003 certified rail shop. So we work with the oversight and the NGO type climate in order to make that work. It's very, very interesting. I also own a little tech company. I own a bunch of real estate. I used to be like the HGTV chick before there was HGTV, and did all of my own construction, and now we manage all of them. We also own a farm ag drain tile company, and we work with farmers on crop yields and controlling and managing the water table and such. We do work in the wetlands, and we also do power line and right-of-way clearing with that company. And we also own Buckeye Trenchers, which we were down on the wall working for President Trump to protect the country from immigration, illegal immigration. I'm going to call it illegal invasion of our country. I really feel strongly that right now we're watching a communist takeover of our country, and unless every single one of us gets involved, we will have no future. This is not the time to sit back and cry or whine or expect somebody else to rescue us or get us out of it. It's time for us to do it. If anybody out there feels unqualified, you're qualified. Show up. You're smarter than anyone we've got in office right now, hands down. I really believe that the entire system from top to bottom is absolutely 100% corrupt. And the corruption goes through industry, it goes into our schools, it's gone into our healthcare, with taking away our freedoms and the freedoms that were given by God and ensured, guaranteed by the Constitution. Their goal is clearly power and money. And also, I believe at the end of the day, what they're really after, they're after power, they're after money, they're after our children. And they won't stop. Communists never do until they get to the point of killing millions of us. And they're well on their way to do that through the vaccinations and some of the other things they're doing. So that's, I find it to be phenomenally interesting to be alive at this point in time. We've gotten so far away from what the founding fathers had ever intended. And I also think that most people don't realize how old the founding fathers actually were. They were actually, millennials. They were around the age of 29 to 33. So our population right now, the younger people, because younger adults, because school has done such a bang-up job on failing them and failing our whole country. They really, everyone, no matter what your age, needs to step up, have an opinion, get involved. Do not let them silence your voice and or attack any of your rights. You have to, there comes a point in time where you stand and you refuse to submit to tyranny, and that's exactly what we have. When I look at the lockdowns, I honestly think a 5-year-old could have done a better job planning them. It was absolutely absurdly insane. You can take out a kayak and a canoe, but not a motorboat. We can close down all the small businesses and have a 60% closure rate on our, the businesses that we've had. The bankruptcy rate is just horrendous. And we can, though, shuffle everyone through the big box stores, one door, which tells me they weren't remotely interested in healthcare. And how many people actually became billionaires through this whole thing? The amount of money that changed hands is staggering, and how many billionaires were actually created that are part of this little globalist crime syndicate they have going on right now. It's kind of interesting to follow that money and see. Another thing that I do is I have 17 horses. I love 17. It's my favorite number. And I do horse training, and we do some rescue. So every morning I start my day off. I like to clean stalls a lot. And I thought, hey, I'm used to shoveling a metric ton of manure by 10 o'clock. Let's go to Lansing. How much worse can it be, right? So a lot of our horses have been severely abused, and we rehabilitate them. They've lost trust and hope. Some of them, one of them's face was completely paralyzed when we got him, and he would just stand in the stall and kind of like, weave back and forth. And another one, he was in really bad shape, and he would lunge at you and try to kick you and stuff. And we've taught him how to. I stood in the stall with him one day and said, "Buddy, we're just going to come to terms with this." And finally, he stood real close, got his eye close to me, and took a deep breath and put his head on his chest, and he was just done with it. And so I do think that some of those skills of being patient and honest, if you're not honest with a horse, they're going to kick you. They can see through it, is probably one of the assets that I come to the table with, because I'm pretty much an open book. I got nothing to hide. I have no reason to, I've had a decent amount of success, and I really, I'm taking on this job because I love the country. I certainly don't need the income. I don't need anything from this. I just want my country back, and I want it to be a safe place for our families. I mean, you've been here before, and we've sat and we visited and such, and that's what I really like to do, is just be able to be free people, enjoy life with our families and friends, enjoy the freedom of religion that we have here, freedom to assemble, and all the rights that are guaranteed by the Constitution.
Yeah, and see, I don't, more and more every day, more and more people, but there's still so many people that have to be woken up to the fact of how everything truly works, and that one day you won't be able to have that picturesque 4th of July picnic out in your backyard with your neighbors and your friends, and because you ain't going to be able to afford the burger that goes on the grill. You're not going to be able to afford the propane that goes in the tank that you're cooking it on. You're not going to be able to possibly even get together with your neighbor. You're either going to hate your neighbor, which they will love, or you're going to be quarantined from your neighbor still. And
well, they're doing a good job on dividing to divide us on every level. The main topic that I hear in politics is who do you like, who do you not like, this, that, and the other thing, and it's a bunch of crap. That's like high school. That's like a high school mentality. And we need to stick to the issues, but unfortunately, there's not many people that really understand the issues. They don't have a high enough business skill. They don't have the ability to actually analyze the topics and know what's really going on. And the majority of them are doing favors for their friends and using that position to self-enrich because they've got nothing else. They have no other skill other than to get up and, throw a bunch of political headlines at everyone, which we all know are lies because they never keep their promises because A, they don't have the skill to do it, and B, they don't have the want to do it. Line 5 is a good example of that. If they had wanted to fix Line 5 isn't a new thing, and it brings 55% of our energy, our oil, and our product, in petroleum product into the state. Well, this isn't a new thing. This has been going on for a long time, and I swear to you, I sat there and listened to a politician talk, and he knew nothing about what he was talking about. He basically said, because I told him, I said, whoever hits that line should be charged for domestic terrorism and locked away. They know what they're doing. They know where that line is. And his response to me was, I know the people that hit that line, and they're not criminals. I'm like, they sure are. And then he went on to say they dragged the anchor for 200 miles. That isn't even remotely possible. We have 80,000 wooden shipwrecks up there besides all the other impediments on the way to hit it. The supports, he went on to talk about the supports being temporary. They're not temporary if they're there for 40 years or 50 years. And above that, Enbridge has been maintaining that line. It's past its...
anything better than what Enbridge might be offering, like you said, with the tunnel for it to go through and fix the situation.
There is no other option. We have 12 lines underneath the water over by Sarnia. So why is this one such a big deal? Because it brings so much product into the state, and they can literally, the communists, this has been about economic warfare right from the beginning. This all this has been about. It's all it's ever about. It's all about the money. And if you follow the money, you can truly you can truly see what they're doing.
And they know, and this is a big part of why I'm getting an outside wood burner this winter, because they know that that can be a crippling blow for, like we were talking about, almost over half of our state, and not just our state. But I was really surprised when the Canadian government stepped in on this issue, simply because of, we know how Canada is, especially with the mask mandates and such right now. It's no better than Australia over there right now. But at the same time, that they actually semi did the right thing and stepped in and said that this was a international affair and that Whitmer had no authority in the situation. That's the only reason Line 5 isn't shut down right now. Is because they stepped in and told Whitmer that she had no authority in the situation at all.
Yeah, it's pretty sad when Justin Trudeau, as Canada, is defending us, our rights. I mean, that's pretty sad. And when you look at energy, the green energy is nothing more than money laundering, and I can prove that out. I did a study with Western Illinois University. I funded and sponsored and worked with a bunch of grad students there it was an optimization project. And we went through 6 to 8 different scenarios and chased them down and looked at the wind energy. And boy, I tell you what, that's another one that is absolutely a tragedy. It's a tragedy. It's more polluting than any gas or oil's ever been because of what they have to do for getting the rare earth minerals to produce it. And it's just really something. I want to go back to the oil and gas a minute, because right now our oil is we do about 22 million barrels a day that we go through in the United States, which Granholm, our energy secretary, doesn't even know how many barrels of oil we go through a day. Talk about incompetence. This whole administration, this whole leftist, they're not even leftist, this whole communist group of I don't know, idiots that are running things. They don't even know facts. They can't even make a good decision because they don't even know what they're talking about. And you look at where our cost per barrel is. We're at about $85 a barrel. We're under Obama. We were at 125. And I'm going to tell you what, we're going to go there again the way that it's going. But if Whitmer gets her way, or any of these other communist, progressives, whatever you want to call them, Marxist, because it's a Marxist, they're Marxist. If they get their way, it's going to shut this state down. It will destroy anything that's left of manufacturing. Businesses will not be able to compete because of the energy monopolies we have going on, besides the cost of our petroleum bases. And, and it's going to take Enbridge 4 years to build that tunnel under the water. Are you kidding me? This isn't something that we can just make a flip decision on and decide, well, we're just not going to do this a minute. So, too bad for you guys because this is what I want, and let it go. I mean, that's been the attitude that she's had. And it's a complicated, long range. There's no planning involved in anything. And I think that's by design to destroy the state.
Yeah, absolutely. And like I said earlier, been running on it for the last 3-4 years, and still nothing to rebound off of Enbridge. With quite the contrary, completely condones Enbridge all the way to the very end. Says that they don't want to work on anything together. Blah 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 blah, and they're talking a 75% increase in natural gas and oil for our state and for Canada, and there's parts of Ohio and all the way down to Virginia and Pennsylvania.
Yep.
As well. You're talking a good chunk of the entire Midwest, a 75% increase on your pocket. They don't care about this because it doesn't come out of their pocket.
Well, they want to weaken people. I mean, look what they're doing in the elder care facilities. If you see how they're taking money away from not just moms and dads. So I just put my dad in hospice. My mom and dad have been in My dad stayed with us because he has dementia. Well, my mom broke her back and was in a facility, and then I ended up finally. We couldn't take care of my dad anymore. He is. There's stages in dementia where it gets a little hostile, and my dad was a very, very good man and a principled man and a great dad. He really was. And I cried for a day and a half when I finally decided that we couldn't provide him the care that he needed. Now, I'm really fortunate because we've had the success to be able to do those things. But I don't know how getting in there and seeing how they're managed and how they're funding things or not funding things. I don't know how the most Americans are able to even cope with this. It's incredible. And what they do is they go after mom and dad, and everything mom and dad has made over that they've made over their entire lives. But Medicaid does not pay for the full bill. So what they do is they guilt the kids into keeping them in these homes and such because the prices are so high, and it strips away the wealth of the next generation. And they know what they're doing. They're trying to. They do the same thing in education with the universities. We're going to sell people on all of this higher education, which is turning out to be nothing more than indoctrination. The suicide rates are through the roof. And I met with some people over at Michigan State, and the people there said, we've been forgotten. The students have been forgotten. And I'm like, that's fair. That's a fair assessment. They're getting out of school with $200,000, $300,000 worth of debt, and they're going to make maybe $30,000 to $40,000 a year for a lot of them. What's the economics of this? There's no return on investment, just like there isn't the way they're running the state budget, right? And, when you have people that can go to trade school to be a plumber and electrician and come out with zero debt and be making into the 6 digits, we've got a big problem, and we've got a labor shortage too. So we're going to need to address that and soundly in order to, we're supposed to be here to help each other, not to damage each other or compromise each other just for us to have the advantage. And public officials are absolutely violating their oaths of office. They don't care about anyone else, it appears to me. And all they're doing is doing favors for their friends, and the rest of us are just peons that they can use for their own gain.
And see, that's part, and two of the things actually. One is, like you said, with the emphasis of, especially for me in school, what was it, 13 years ago roughly now when I was finishing, it was college. And you can come out, you can go and apply for a loan, a $20,000 small business loan, $30,000, $40,000, and be denied. But you want a $30,000 to $40,000 student loan? Oh, yep, automatic approval. Here you go, no problem whatsoever. The second thing being, it's like I tell people all the time, and there's not going to be a blueprint for this, but the way our schools are structured is horrible. People don't understand that roughly 1957, it was when the structure of our current school system was finalized. And we know it. Everybody has talked about it probably at some point or another during being at school or after. It is set up for worker bee status. You go, you show up at a certain time, you come in, you do your jobs, you move along your route, you walk in lines, single file lines, you go to lunch, you come back from lunch, you do all your stuff, then you clock out and you go home. The individualism as a whole in our society is being ripped from us. It is being completely annihilated because that's what they want you to not have. They don't want you critically thinking. They want you inside the box. If you are inside the box, they can shake the box whenever they want and screw your entire world up. Whether it is through debt or the education system, or you feeling like you're at the end of your rope with your jobs because you can't get into the right job, These people don't care about any of these things, and don't you dare speak about it. And that's what we're especially seeing more emphasis now on, more and more every day. That's why we're on YouTube now, and just got back from the ban. Is because don't you dare talk about these things. We'll see. We'll see what happens with this episode. If it gets banned, Donna, we'll put it up on Rumble. We'll put it up other places. But how dare you talk about these things that are completely factual and going on in our world? How dare you inform people of these things? Because we want to save our future. There's a difference between us and the other side. We actually have something worth fighting for.
Yeah, we sure do.
They're just drooling monsters that just keep their shoulders down, keep their heads bowed, and they walk in line and they follow in line for the greater good, as the Michigan Democratic Party would say the other day in their post about our community school systems. And just so you guys know, I've never seen a post shoot so fast around the state of Michigan on Facebook ever. You, Michigan Democrat Party, you tried to take it down. You tried hiding it. Everybody saw it. See, freedom of speech anymore nowadays is a really weird thing. You're allowed to post something like that, saying that parents have no right and no say in their children's growth and education and future, and that it's this almost hallucinogen idea that how dare they. You're allowed to sit there and say that, but there's a good chance that this episode of mine could end at any minute.
No, that's all right.
Because they're talking about freedom.
Every time they try to censor us, it's just sort of like trying to hold onto a hand of Jell-O. It's going to squirt out between their fingers, and we're going to come at them another way, because I don't know about you, but I will not be silenced, no matter what they say. They don't get to take my voice away. They don't get to tell us when we work or how we feed our families or any of that. And they can go fly a kite or stick it. I don't care, but I'm not going to shut up. And the censorship. Yesterday, I saw. I watched it kind of before my eyes, and I've got it documented. 300 followers on Instagram went away, and I've got a friend that she watched the same thing happen on Facebook and on some of the other ones. So they're definitely suppressing us and trying to silence us. It's not working well for them, actually, because quite honestly, every single time they do it, what they're doing is they're moving us into decentralization, and they're going to become at some point in time completely and utterly irrelevant. Because at this point in time, we're the news. I'm a researcher. I research probably 6 hours to 10 hours a day. I've done it for years. And all of us that are truthers and that have been researching for years like that, we have put so much time into it. And really, when you start seeing the bottom of what's actually happening here, you don't sleep. You realize what you're up against. You refuse to lay down and fall in line. And it's just not going to happen. I was done with this years ago. I homeschooled my kids. I started 29 years ago. And my kids are all grown. They're all in their 30s now, except for my special needs daughter. But I was done with it then and homeschooled my kids because I saw the corruption and the what they're teaching my kids, and I didn't want to teach them to hate each other, because that's one of their things they do, is they're trying to divide people, and they don't teach any communication skills on how to get along or solve a problem or listen for information. They're teaching people how to listen to respond instead of learning new ways of thinking about things and taking the time to ponder and then being kind to that other person, because they have as much right to their opinion as you do.
Right, and that brings up one of the other main things going on in our schools right now is the CRT. Two things with that is, one, and the second part of it has two parts, and some people don't like it, but number one, You are teaching, no matter in what shape or form, you are telling the basics of CRT is you are telling, physically telling, one or multiple races of different ethnicities that they are singled out, oppressed, have less of a leg up in life, are starting out further down the line in some way, shape, or form. And you don't know their status, you don't know their family status, but regardless, they are starting further down, and it is a white person's fault. So number one, you are like Donna said, you are teaching hate at its most basic root. How far have we come from 1962? How far have we come in our society? And the second part of that being is in that, how do you not expect to create victims in a victim-filled society? And countless people, you're furthering the victim mentality. At first, it was safe spaces and squares on the ground, and nobody can harm me, nobody can get to me and my feelings. And now you've put it to a humanitarian level. You've put it to the level of race instead of somebody just being a victim, possibly. Somebody is automatically a victim, and you are pursuing the thought of convincing them further that they are a victim in society from literally the moment they are born. Based off of the color of their skin, they are a victim in society. Even if you're not directly teaching about racism in your attempt to end racism, you are at the very least creating a society of victims. And we don't need victims. We don't need a society of victims. We need a society of warriors. Because how can victims change the world? A victim is going to sit around and feel sad about situations and feel bad about situations, and that's exactly what they want you to do. People that are warriors think for themselves and think outside the box and aren't able to be shook up inside that box anymore. And that's what they don't want us doing.
They're teaching people to blame everyone but themselves for taking responsibility for what goes on around them. And I'm sorry, but we all have the ability to change just about anything we want. And I'm going to tell you what, this blame game constantly, it leads to an entitlement attitude instead of an empowered attitude to change things. I grew up in a very, very poor home. My dad had me filling trucks in his gravel pit. That was the time when Dad said, go fill those trucks. And you were like, yes, Dad. You didn't question what he said to do. You went and you did it. And and then I left home at 17 and put myself through college because I really wanted to do something different, right? And I can tell you that I remember when I went in for my first business loan, I'm 58 years old, so things really are different now than even what they were then. But I remember going in for my first business loan and having somebody look right at me and say, wow, if you were a guy, I'd give you this loan. And I never felt sorry for myself for 1 minute. I walked out of there and said, boy, you're an idiot, and I'm going to make you eat crow. Just wait. And that kind of did happen, but even if somebody says something and knocks you down or is trying to knock you down, it's your choice to decide not to be knocked down. You don't have to give them any weight. You don't have to listen to them. You don't have to say, oh, they're right. You sit there and go, what an idiot, and get up and prove them wrong. And that's what we have to do with the state. Don't let them hurt your feelings. It's their problem. When somebody says something that you deem as hurtful, it has nothing to do with you. It's them. It's their way that they see the world. And you don't have to buy into any of it. They're probably wrong. And a lot of times it's just because they're trying to manipulate or hurt you. So why would you even listen to that? Move on. Go, move past, move on. Don't let them get tied up into your emotions for 1 second because that's what they want. Don't give them what they want. Stand and fight. Do what you know that God's put in your heart to lead you to do, and leave them behind. If they're going to be abusive or belittling or knock you down, who cares? If they're not doing it to you, they're going to do it to somebody else. It's a personality flaw you're seeing. Has nothing to do with you. and you don't need to take any weight in for that. And that's how you really don't you avoid becoming a victim. Why are you listening to these people? You don't need to, follow what's in your heart and do what you know that God's put in your heart, because there's things that He put in everyone which make us unique individuals, our strengths, our talents, the things we like to do, and nobody has the right to tell you that that's not valid or that you shouldn't be doing that. You're special just the way you are, and we need you. We need your talents. There's not one talent that is any more important than the rest of them. I can tell you, I've gone to on jobs, and one of the jobs I went out with a camera and a video camera, and I had my work boots on and my dorky. I looked like a dork because I'm so little that none of the clothes fit me really well when I'm out on the right of way. Safety vest, my helmet, and the whole 10 yards. And I went out there and I was talking to all the guys that were on that one crew. And some of them didn't know me. When we move from job to job, sometimes we get different workers from the union. So it's kind of a temporary workforce when we use union guys. Not always do we have. It's not all union guys. It's some company guys. It's some union guys and I mean union. I mean men and women. When I say guys, that's a Michigan thing, and Michigan colloquialism. And I was out there taping them, and I was rewriting all of our safety policies, and also with one of our project managers. And I also wanted to make some videos to show their families what they do out there, because it is they're very, very skilled in putting pipe in the ground. We have welders, we have teamsters, we have operators and laborers, and they know what to do. It's like an assembly line. It's a mobile assembly line. So I went out there and I wanted to make sure that they thought that the company was doing a good job on safety and how we were running things. So I went out there and I just went from one crew to the next that was on this particular pipeline with my camera, and I just introduced myself. Hey, I'm Donna, and I just really would like to have your opinion on how this company is functioning and how well they're doing safety. So some of them knew, but a lot of them didn't. And one of the guys was like, "Well, I want to talk to you." And I said, "Well, it really helps me." And finally, he looked around and he got it figured out, and he said, Who are you?" And I'm like, "Oh, I'm Donna Brandenburg." And he's like, What do you do here?" And I'm like, "Well, I'm told I own the company." So, and he about lost it. He's like, "This is just like undercover boss," and he got all bent out of shape about it. And I said, "Yeah," I said, "but the difference is that I'm out here stopping work, and you're actually working because I'm trying to get feedback. So you're more important than I am at this moment. And we're all the same. We're all on the same team. No matter what your job is, what you do, you're valuable. It doesn't. You don't have to be sitting sitting in the chair of the CEO or a business owner, a person in that capacity. All we do is solve problems all day. We solve problems. We make sure things are financially responsible. We overall watch the flow of things to keep things going. But our biggest thing is to enable talented people to do their jobs and create jobs for them.
Absolutely. We all have to work together, no matter, gonna unite the country. And I know we used to have a format on the show that, we kept everything, to an extent prim and proper, but we can't do that anymore. We got to call these things out. We got to be on top of these things. And when it comes to empowering, you have to, I don't understand how, unless you're doing something on purpose, unless you want to not have control over a situation on purpose, there's no better example than our states right now. We have states like Texas and Florida and South Dakota, and the people of California, anyway, are starting to get really pissed off. But we have to start standing up as an entire state. Our state is bad, really bad. There's a lot of people that don't care, and to the people that I try to explain this to, there's a lot of people that just don't understand just exactly how bad Michigan is with corruption. And Ron Weiser, I'm looking right at you, buddy, because I know through a lot of research and a lot of time spent with your name that you are a big chunk of this, and I will be so glad when you are out of our state, because you have got to go. There is so much that comes back around to you, including Jocelyn Benson. I know exactly why you gave Stanley Grout that money. I know exactly why you gave Stanley Grout that money. Once again, like I've said before, there's nobody coming to save us. This isn't a Superman movie, and like we were talking about at the beginning of this video, in my Discord, and if any of you guys ever want to join the Discord, you're more than welcome to. It's a place where you can meet with people and talk about various things, whatever you want, how to get together. There's actually a channel in there called The Tavern, and there's a reason for that, because that was one of the biggest places that our founding fathers used to meet, was in barns and bars and taverns. And it's really saddening and really disheartening to me when some people don't even know why I have 1776 on the top of my hand. When there's people that ask me what it's for, or I've had people double look at me and say, birth year? I'm like, no. And this is what we're up against, and it's nobody's fault. And that's one of the biggest reasons for doing your own research like me and Donna do, or the point of having this show is to inform you guys and empower you guys, because the government has kept the government in check for way too long. And it's up to us now. That's what we have to do. It doesn't matter if it's on your local level. And I'm talking a lot to northern Michigan right now, because let me tell you what, I'm getting real sick and tired of the north being asleep. Just because the top of our state was entirely red doesn't mean that you're not vulnerable. And I'm going to sit up straight and tell you that right now, because I have had enough in the top of our state. You see how... go ahead, Donna. Yeah.
You know what? There, honestly, I found some of the most wonderful patriots in the Upper Peninsula, and they feel forgotten. And we had so many people running up there that were actually Democrats, and because they couldn't win as a Democrat, so our progressive power structure in Michigan sent Democrats up there to run as rhinos, and basically betrayed them. There's so much betrayal in the state by running Democrats in for a Republican seat, because they can't win as Democrats in those counties, and it's really unfortunate. One of the things that I want to do is doing as a corporate structure is we need to establish that every single one of these people did in fact take their oath of office. They're supposed to, and I'd like to step every single public official, elected or unelected, with a job performance review and see how they stack up. And one of the ways is, did you actually represent the constituents that voted you in, and give them an opportunity in order to basically score them. And if they're not cutting the mustard there, they get removed out of their ability to have any influence and moved out of the way until we can vote somebody else in, because we can't just have them in there like a wrecking ball, damaging everything along the way. Either they get in there honestly and they represent what a constitutional republic is, their constituents, or they need to leave. And if they do illegal activities or bad stuff, it's not going to work here for us anymore. I actually had about five different groups of people that have come to me since I decided to run and they've taped me, and they've taped me and such to try to catch me saying something that they can twist around. somebody offered me, I had more than one person offer me a pay-to-play scam for getting the President Trump endorsement. And I'm like, this girl doesn't pay to play. And then I've had, a couple of them try to entrap me into giving them a job. They're telling me their resume and such, and have me say, well, what would you do with a person like that? Do you give them a job when you were in? And I said, you know as well as I do that that's illegal. You're asking me to do something that's illegal and unethical. I will not answer your question. And they're like, well, you've got to answer my question. I'm like, I don't have to do a dang thing. And just be straight on that. I will not. If I can't win honestly, I'm not going to win. And the one person said, well, if you don't pay that $20,000, of course it doesn't go to President Trump. It goes to the people underneath him, which is a key statement right there. And I believe that underneath him means people here in Michigan who are, in fact, getting the payoff. I don't believe President Trump is getting it, but he's real condescending. He said, if you're going to run, you're going to spend all this money, and nobody's going to remember anything about you. And I'm like, well, honestly, I never really wanted to be remembered. I just like to do my work. I want to be able to stand in front of God Almighty. I want to do the right thing by my kids and the people that are around me that I love, and if the world forgets about me, I really don't care. It's not one of the things I've ever desired.
So you're telling me right now that that at least to some degree that the pay to play scheme in Michigan is real.
Oh yeah, it's been right on my doorstep. I've had people. I'm compiling a list of names, and honestly, I've thrown some of those names of people that needed to be called up into people of power that so they know what's going on. Because I'm not going to shut up. I had somebody that said, you need to, if you write a check for this amount into your campaign fund, I can guarantee you. I can guarantee you the Trump endorsement because I'm on the phone with him. He's saying this, that, and the other thing, which was a blatant lie. And another endorsement, which was kind of funny because the guy from the other endorsement, I know personally. So I just shot it right up and said, well, this is what this Yahoo said to me. Just so you know, you might want to watch out for him because he said something that I know was a bold-faced lie. I had somebody offer me a stick of blackmail material on every member of Congress and said, of course, I've been investigated by the FBI, and I told them that I didn't have it. But if you had that, of course, it'll get you killed unless you're ready to play dirty. Then you'll win. And I'm like, this discussion is done. If I don't. And I'm win. I will not compromise for any reason whatsoever. They can't offer me anything because I can be just as happy cleaning stalls, drinking a cup of coffee, throwing rocks and water as I can anything else. I really don't need anything to be happy in life. I've gotten past that point in life. The only thing I need to be happy is to be able to know in my heart who I am, what I stood for, what I did, and to actually maybe make a difference, help people find their way back to God, and know that they're okay, that they're loved beyond all measure, and that they're precious. And that's, I like rescuing. I rescue horses. I like rescuing people too.
Well, see, the big thing is right now is we haven't been able, because I do this show, I bring candidates on, we talk about these things, but I'm also an investigator, like me and Donna were just talking about earlier. It's really interesting to me because from what I found, this is like the first confirmation that we've got that anybody will talk about this pay to play in Michigan. And there's been questionable add-ons of Maddox money to people's funds. Same amount every time. and it always occurs right about the same time as their Trump endorsements. And especially over here in my area, there's something that really doesn't make sense. And I have to call this out. I have to do it. I don't care if he's running for representative of my district or not. I would love to know how, on the same day as the Maddox Christmas party, that Michael Howley, who is running for state representative in my district, I believe it's after the redistrict lines, it's the 100th district. I would love to know how a person that is mayor of a local town, this town is 20 minutes from me, I didn't, in my whole life, did not even know that this town had a mayor. Did not even know that this town had a mayor at all. This town probably has 5,000 people. Please do tell how you have a Trump endorsement before Melissa Carone. Please do tell. I would love to know how that happened. And when I ask you, you tell me, oh, I have no idea, but I'm extremely humbled by it. That's not something that just happens. Your team works for that or does something for that, or you're recognized in some way, especially when your endorsement from Trump is 3 sentences. Literally 3 sentences. I'm going to call it as I see it. There's somebody else that I'm going to be endorsing personally and on the show for my district that has been more than willing to talk with me and go and have a meetup. No Trump endorsement. Not that I'm saying Trump endorsements are a bad thing in our state, but this is where the research of candidates really comes in at, because somebody can have a Trump endorsement. Where else do you see these popping up in the state or in the country? Anyway, I don't hear about Trump endorsements from Arizona. I don't hear about Trump endorsements from Texas or Florida or Wisconsin. I don't hear about Trump endorsements from any other state. So when you throw that into the mix, that all this suspicious money is floating around, people are getting endorsements that nobody even knows who they are. And now,
well, I was told that if I didn't pay the $20,000, that I would not win. So that's kind of there. You look at that; it's like right there. You've got threat, coercion, and you've got threat, you've got coercion, you've got blackmail in all of it. And I had witnesses. So this is not something that happened, just off the radar here, and
right.
in several different situations. And it's for real. It's absolutely for real. I know a couple other people that were approached and told me that they were also approached. And so it's a real thing. I really think that there's so much corruption here. And you can even look at, I went to the Capitol one day to sit through a couple of, one committee. It was on gun control, because I'm a Second Amendment supporter, and this is what I'd like to see done. And I think this is, I feel really strongly about this. I'm a CPL holder. I like my firearms and such, and I would defend them with my life, because that's the only amendment that defends all the rest of them, correct? So I really would like to see us go back to constitutional carry. There shouldn't be any licensure, because the only ones that have got guns that when you go through any of these processes are the criminals. I would also like to see tax credits for firearms purchases, for ammunitions, for ammo purchase, as well as for firearms training. We need to have a strongly suited up population here, because this is the only thing that's ever held tyrants back, is an armed population who kept their tyranny at bay. It's not about criminal activity in at large. It's about criminal politicians, and that's why we need to be armed and fully prepared for anything. I feel that.
Well, that's like I was just telling somebody earlier today. Look at Canada and Australia. What do they have in common?
Yep.
96% of their guns out the door. Why are you okay with police and the government being the only people to have weapons? Like, in what world? In what world was that? Would have been like back in medieval times that nobody would have kept a pitchfork, or
Right.
nobody would have kept a crossbow, or
And
nothing.
and a court system that won't uphold your right to defend yourself property. It used to. I'm kind of the opinion that if somebody comes to harm you or your property, they've lost their rights at that moment to hurt you or to threaten you. They just made a really poor choice, and the court hold that in order to have the rule of law back again. And I'm sorry, I'm sick of listening to the excuses. Well, I had this happen to me. I had, a hangnail at one point in my life, so it made it okay for me to go right ahead and ram a van into a bunch of people and kill 6 kids, or to kill people. No, there's no excuses for that. There's absolutely no excuses for it. And a lot of the problems that we have right now, too, could be solved by having stronger mental health, because our police and our sheriff's departments have become a mental health ward rather than dealing with criminals that need to be locked away. They're babysitting people who actually need to be in a care facility with maybe the proper meds or people there that
Well,
could.
it's not even just that. My fiance went at her previous job. There was a specific wing that was psychiatric. She worked at a nursing facility. There was a specific wing that was for psychiatric patients. They weren't there because they were elderly. They were there for psychiatric reasons of all ages, 20s, 30s, elderly, and you hit the nail on the head as soon as you started talking about the subject. I was like, yes, because nobody, and especially with our schools. Why is it that we want to create more victims instead of teaching kids how to cope with feelings, and now teaching adults how to cope with feelings because they didn't learn it apparently, and how to build a better society, how to be better. But one more thing too before I do forget, I want to make a prediction on this governor's race as well. I have one theory and another statement. Number one, the reason that Donald Trump, you get all these endorsements and whatnot, the reason Donald Trump hasn't endorsed anybody for governor is you would think that in the grand scheme of things that Garrett Soldano would get the endorsement. He's the closest to the GOP, right? Hangs out with Ron Weiser, hangs out with Ron Armstrong, hangs out with Michonne Maddox. But why are they going to take Garrett Soldano's money? That wouldn't make any sense. Donna can't be bought. Ryan can't be bought. Tudor Dixon can't be bought. The rest of them, I have a feeling Austin Chang and the rest of them, they're not even going to end up being in the race. It is going to come down to possibly Garrett Soldano if he doesn't drop out and they full-blown endorse Chief Craig. But it is going to come down to Donna, Ryan, Chief Craig, and Garrett Soldano. And out of that list, I've said this multiple times on the show, but make sure that you guys keep Ryan and Donna in your scope, because like I was saying to Donna earlier, these two have been all over our state, fighting in any event that they can possibly get to that their schedule will allow, because they want to be close to you guys. They want to be on your guys' level and know what you want out of our state. I had to make that statement because when it comes to our next governor, this decision, it's not only important because it chooses the leader of our state, but it's also really important because of the times that we're in. What direction do you guys want to see our state go in? Because especially if we keep Whitmer, we're going to become Chicago, or we're going to become New York, or we just might adopt the habits and rituals of our friendly little neighbors to the north, and just give up our firearms.
Yeah, I don't think that's happening. I don't think that's gonna.
No, I don't think the UP. Oh, that's another thing. The UP Patriots. If you guys are seeing this show, if it gets to you, and you are in the Upper Peninsula and you're feeling bad, you don't like what's going on up there, there's a group called the UP Patriots, and one of the women that helps lead that, her name is Mary Sears. She's a member of the Constitution Party, same as myself. And if you guys are feeling that way about what you guys have going on up there, get in contact with them. There's subgroups of them all over the Upper Peninsula. It's something really great that they're doing up there right now. And they have huge growing numbers up there. I think the last meeting, Mary said that there was over 400 people there. So if that's the way you guys are feeling in the UP, we don't want you guys to feel lonely. We don't want you to feel left out in this fight. Because like I was going to say earlier too, we need to wake the people in the north up. You see these events in Detroit and Macomb and Lansing and Grand Rapids, and you see all these spots because that's where the corruption is. That's where they have the problems with these liberal people. You get an area like ours, like me, there's not a Democrat in a seat for 60 miles around me. And we have to break out of that comfortably numb zone and understand that this is coming for everybody. That them taking our freedoms away, our First Amendment right, our Second Amendment right, and who knows what else? Who knows what else is going to become illegal? You got people that are being wrestled to the ground in Australia and Canada right now and being forced masked because they're cutting their grass without a mask on. Is that what we're going to become? Is that what we really want? I don't think so. And it takes us electing people like this, like Donna, and like Melissa, and like Christina, and Matt DePerno, and myself, to get these things back on track. Because it was like the discussion me and Donna were having earlier. And like Donna said before, we don't do this for the fame. We don't do this for the glory. We don't do this because we have to. We do this because we care about everybody in our state, and we care about everybody in our country, and we know that this is not what our country is supposed to be. And whether it's like a post that I seen earlier today, whether you're a conspiracy theorist or not, there's something deep down inside of you that knows that something's not right here.
Yeah, well, and we're going to fight to it to the end. So I just want to let you know that I did get endorsed by General Flynn, and the good news on this is that I am bringing him to the state of Michigan on February 24 and 25. We have you guys are kind of in the know here a little bit because that's not coming out like on a big announcement till later. But he is coming here, and he will be in Macomb on the 24th, and then Grand Rapids on the 25th of February. We've got a lot of stuff planned for that. It's going to be an awful lot of fun. And I would encourage everybody to mark their calendars on that. You can go to brandenburgforgovernor.com. That's our campaign website. I've also got a personal blog. Being a researcher, I have quite a bit of information on there. I probably have 60,000 documents, photos, videos, and screenshots, proofs, and such over the years that I've collected. So I follow the money. I ask a lot of questions. I like to chase things down. Tomorrow, I've already got my post done for tomorrow, and I'm chasing down the feds and feds involvement, especially with the January 6th tragedy, because it was not, if it was an insurrection, it was only an insurrection from the FBI, which is the Federal Bureau of Insurrections. We have political prisoners there, and not one federal person got prosecuted. And I'm going to tell you what, you're going to find some connections to Michigan there if you dig and you ask some questions. there were definitely people there from Michigan that, not all of them, not patriots, but there were also people there that I believe were cooperating with the feds. There were people that were tipped off. And when you look at where that little trail leads, it's going to really be damning for a whole bunch of people. Now, I'm not naming a lot of names on that one because it's going to become self-evident fairly quickly, as long as people are willing to look at the information, not be spoon-fed, and connect the dots. They'll know exactly who was involved.
Yeah, and see, that's why me and Donna get along so fantastically, because we know to never accept the official narrative. And that's what I
question everything.
Exactly. That's what I love emphasizing to you guys all the time, is question everything that is said to you, because if it is the way it is, it's going to be a 1-2 search, and you're going to be like, oh, yep, that's the way that's supposed to be. But you go through and you find 1, 2, 3 things that ain't supposed to be that way, then you know that you need to go into things a little bit further. But
yep.
We're coming up.
Just keep running down there, and you'll find to the next that leads to the next. After a while, you find the whole site picture. I did a deep dig on Whitmer and the connections to Blue Cross Blue Shield, and that's pretty bad too, because that leads you into secession for her dad, because her dad was the head of Blue Cross Blue Shield, and tra-la-la, watch the money fly out the door there. That's pretty. That little thing is pretty interesting. And Snyder, and they're all funded by dark money accounts, and that's disturbing. That's incredibly disturbing. If things can't be out in the open and transparent, we have a problem. Guaranteed, we have a problem. You could never do an audit the way that they're doing it in the public sector. Not a chance. And I listened to somebody that's in our legislature say, oh yeah, we're doing a great job on auditing. We've got a department in Lansing that's doing the auditing. And I'm like, are you flipping kidding me? So Lansing is auditing Lansing to find corruption in Lansing. It's like how stupid.
I would love to see somebody investigate the Boji group in Lansing. I haven't been able to find a whole lot, but it's very concerning to me when this 106 West Allegan Street, this fake shell address that all these nonprofit organizations use, including Republican ones. I'm not just singling out one side. Democrats and Republicans both use this address. It's for a group called the Lambert Group, and the building that they reside in is owned by the Boji Group. The tallest skyscraper in Lansing is called the Boji Tower. When you walk into our Senate building, it says maintained and guided by the Boji Group. So the corruption runs super deep in Lansing. Super deep.
Oh yeah, absolutely. But it's in our corporations. You can go to BlackRock and Vanguard. You can look at how they're moving things around in our schools, how they're affecting things through the hedge funds. You can look at what the insurance companies are doing, and people want to point the fingers squarely at, say, the central banks, but the twin to that is the insurance companies that are dictating care, that are dictating whether companies can perform or not. The NGOs are copywriting our laws, and people don't understand how to do that. That's one of the things that's a huge strength for me, as I've worked in so many different industries and in different capacities, that I don't need anybody chirping in my ear telling me what's going on. I already know their games. I already know what they're doing, because I don't know it because somebody told me. I live it. And I've lived it for a very, very long time, both contractual, going through, contracts and contract type laws, fighting lawsuits that are for the principle of things. We've done that before. And trying to keep things on the rails and do it with integrity and honesty. And quite honestly, that's exactly what we've done, and nobody's given us anything. We built this stuff ourselves, and there were days that I worked and slept 2 hours a day. I mean, the American dream is is alive and well, but you have to be willing to work for it. It's opportunity. It's not given to you. You've got to make sacrifices, and you've got to make that the most important thing that you're working on, because you know that that's exactly what you're supposed to be doing, and that you are truly called to do that, or you feel like God has put you in that position to do that. Then you just work, and that's what you stay focused on. You don't go and take up about 6 other hobbies. You stay focused on what it's going to take to feed yourself and create for yourself a future with that opportunity. One thing I want to go back on is with the President Trump endorsements and such. I don't really know what to say about the endorsements, but he's a pretty smart guy, and I think that he does know what he's doing. So we might be playing a little 4D chess there. That's what I'm hoping is going on there, and I believe that that's probably closer to the truth than anything. So let's just see how this plays out a little bit, because it's very likely that there's something else going on there. He's a very smart man. So
yeah, and I would assume that somehow, some way, one way or another, that he would know about this, and that's what I've asked myself is, even if this is being ran by whoever it's being ran by, and it seems more and more powerful people and people within the GOP itself, that to some extent he would have to know about something with his name on it, because like you said, he's not stupid. That's why he was one of the most, if not the most, successful president in history. But that's the part that's baffled me over and over, is when something like that comes out and your name's on it and you are who you are, being Donald Trump, you gotta know. You gotta know. But
I believe he knows.
But the question is why? That's the next question in that series that I ask myself is why?
Connect the dots, and I think you gotta let commit crimes in order to show people what they're actually doing.
That is true, and I do see that, and through all of this and everything that's happened within the Patriot movement, I have lost a few people that I considered friends, and I do want to make this note. If you are watching my show right now, you terminated our relationship, not me. I am one of the most neutral people through all of this. I call everything as I see it. And just so you know, once again, when you have pictures with Ron Weiser and Ron Armstrong and Michelle Maddox, and your arms are all thrown around each other, that is not my fault that I bring that to the people. You ride with an outlaw, you die with an outlaw. That is one thing that I have lived by my entire life. Probably one of the reasons why I stayed out of trouble so much as a kid. You ride with an outlaw, you die with an outlaw. So if you want to be around those people, you want to take pictures with those people, people want to have pictures with Garrett Saldano and then say that they endorse other people, don't come crying to me when everybody's messaging you and talking to you, calling you a traitor and asking you what you're doing. Don't come whining to me.
Well, and we end up talking to each other, and if somebody's in the wrong, hopefully we can appeal to them to come to the right side too. I mean, if we don't reach out to people who are maybe blackmailed into doing things that they, because there are people that are weak-minded that will allow themselves to be blackmailed into stuff. We all know that. We know that that's what they do with pedophilia. We know that that's exactly what they're doing to compromise a lot of the people. That's what the Ghislaine Maxwell trial is all about. They were setting up honeypots and compromising people in a position of power in order to own them and their decisions and what they do. I mean, this is nothing new. They've been doing this for how many decades?
I tried reaching out to originally when everything went down. I'm sure you remember, when everything first clashed in the grassroots movement over the audit and the audit language. I tried pulling everybody back together because I know all of them. I'm friends with all of them. I talk with all of them. Well, not anymore. Those were a few of the people that got rid of me. And to
Well, that's
anybody, to anybody that's been told that they shouldn't talk to me, I would gladly and strongly encourage you, do talk to me. Shoot me a message and let me know, if you will, why you've been instructed not to talk to me. Because we have work to do in our state. People like me, Donna, Ryan, Melissa, Christina, we have work to do in our state. And we're not concerned with your drama and your shenanigans and how you want to sleep with the enemy and get caught up in various things. We're done with all that. We don't care
Yep.
about those situations anymore. I tried that one time. I tried mending our grassroots back together and saying, hey, can we get down? Can we sit down for a round table with everybody and, figure out what's going on? I'm like, we were arm in arm a year ago. What happened? I tried. Nobody wanted to do it. So my focus went right back to you guys, right back to our people, because I don't care where you stand on a lot of things, but if you're willing to stand against the evil with me and stand shoulder to shoulder and not stick a knife in my back when the time comes, that's all I ever care about. That's all
That's
I
all.
ever ask of people.
That's all we need to do, because you're never going to get somebody all the time. So we have to get rid of this petty childishness, and stand together, because if we don't come together and unite, we're going to lose everything. And the things that we need to come around, there's core things that we need to come around and stand on. But the rest of it doesn't matter. And find a way to get along. Find a way to bring into the fight with us. That they can pull, because the more people we have that are standing together, shoulder to shoulder, arm in arm, based on the Constitution, what the Founding Fathers had laid out, which was to protect our rights from these communist usurpers who have gotten in there to strip away everything we've had for decades. I mean, this isn't new. This has been going on for a long time.
Oh yeah.
And so, but we need everybody. Everybody needs to step up. Everybody needs to support the candidate. Everybody needs to get behind candidates and run for office. Get educated. Find out what's really going on. Not the talking points. Not the headlines. I don't want to hear about what somebody's going to do. I don't want to hear about it, because most of that is talking points. If they can't analyze the situation and give you a good analysis so that you could hear exactly what's going on, either the laws behind it or the strategy behind it, they got nothing. All they have is headlines, and they're lying to you. We need the person that's best capable of doing the job to run the state like a business, having every accountability on every single dime of your hard-earned tax money that you've put into there, and getting a return on investment to go back to the taxpayers and make this state strong, get us working again, and educating our children with an actual education, not just an indoctrination, giving us actual health care where we make the choices with our doctors instead of the state telling us what to do. Parents raising their children without interference from the state. These are just all wrong, because right now they're grooming our children. And we need to just put an end to this, or we aren't going to have anything left.
Absolutely. And it seems we might live in Michigan and think that Michigan might not be that special, but one of the last events that I attended, there was a group of people there, and a couple of them were from Arizona, and a couple of them were from Texas. They had actually came out to speak at the event, and they told me that Michigan is their example. These states like Arizona and everybody wants to talk about Texas and all these things that Texas is doing. That we have people there that live there, good numbers of people that look at Michigan as the example of how to clean the act up, of how to get things going right.
Michigan's amazing. I mean, look at our past, our history. Michigan built so much of the products historically that with the automobile industry and everything. Michigan is a phenomenal state. I mean, we live in a mitten. I mean, how cool is that? I do a lot of traveling. I have over the years, and this is my favorite place to be. I wouldn't want to live anywhere else. I love Michigan, and I love the lakes. I love the people here. One of our main industries is tourism. So the people that live here are gracious. We're open. We talk to people. We welcome people in that are that we like people that are different from us. That's kind of a fun thing to learn about different people and what's important to them, and not expect us to be all cookie cutters and fall in line. It's adventurous. We have so many things to do outdoors, and the business community here used to be so strong until Whitmer got in office. We were amazing, and we just got to get back to that. So that's my thought here.
Yeah, I honestly haven't liked our last 3-4 governors, and yeah, I'm 30 years old, but I've been doing this 15 years. I've been in this 15 years since before I could vote. I've been following money trails and questioning what I was that kid in school to where my teacher would be like, "All right, now get in line," and I'd be like, "Why?" That was me. That was the kid that I was, and that's what we as adults, they were. It's supposed to be that we just accept the way things are. This is the way things are. You're not smart enough or capable of handling these things. That's why you elect us. And that's all well and good. And we also have the right to vote, but it's like I tell people all the time, we have the responsibility to know who and what we are exactly voting for. Me personally, I don't think that we've duly elected a president since LBJ was sworn in on Air Force One on the way back from Dallas, Texas. I think that Ronald Reagan broke the algorithm twice, and I think Donald Trump broke the algorithm again, and that's why they did. See, I almost said the dirty words. That was the whole shenanigan in 2020. That's why it was so big, was because they wanted to make sure. To make sure.
If I'm going to stay on longer, I got to plug my camera in here because it's
Well, actually, we're just about hitting the 1 hour mark, and we're just about ready to wrap up here. But it was great being with you guys tonight. I've been waiting for this episode with Donna. We've been wanting to get this episode planned out, and it looks like that maybe, possibly, slightly, there might be we'll see about a future possible Flynn episode of Minds of Michigan. We'll see how that goes. But
Enbridge.
Fantastic. I've been meaning to get my merch worked on too. And these are the type of people that you guys have to pay attention to. Donna, she has been out here doing so much. I see her all over the state. More events than I could possibly imagine to get to. I am doing my best out here for you guys. Come spring and summer, you're going to be seeing a lot more of me no matter where you live in the state. I'm getting the calendar together right now. We're going to be taking back our State Board of Education. Right now, they are simply outvoted. Our conservatives on that board are simply outvoted 2-6 every time. That's exactly what just happened with CRT at this last school board meeting, which to anybody that was on that phone call that stayed on as long as I did, or even just stayed on in general, to the over 600 people that took the time to get into that meeting, whether it was virtually or whether you were there in person, thank you so much. I know me personally, I waited on the phone 7 hours. 7 hours. I had been at work for 3 hours before I finally heard, yes, hello, caller. Can we have your name, where you're from, and your 3 minutes of comment? But this is what it takes. This is what it takes to, people have asked me, You're willing to die on this hill? Yeah, you're right. Any hill that sees my people prosper and my children prosper and our future prosper, yeah, I'm willing to die on that hill. Because, like Donna said earlier, the men that started our country, that put this beautiful framework together, were James Hamilton, for a specific example, was 19 years old. He's the youngest person to sign the Declaration of Independence. So just to put that into perspective, these were bar owners, business owners, everyday people, farmers that were fed up and had enough. And they took on the biggest army in the world. Sounds a little ironic to today's day and age, doesn't it?
And they went home when they were done. I mean, they were not, what we have right now is a political ruling class. It's a professional ruling class. That wasn't the way it was set up. You were supposed to have people to bring their expertise into Lansing who actually did something. And what, they weren't there for the long haul. They served their term. It was a duty. It was a service that they did. They didn't go in there to profit off of this. They didn't go in there for this to be a career. And that's exactly what we have. We have a political ruling class that are bent on protecting each other instead of protecting the citizens that they have sworn an oath to protect, defend, and serve. And that's what's the crux of the problem right now. The top to bottom, we have corruption. And I'm not even sure that they really understand how corrupt it is because they think this is normal. And it's not normal, and we have to keep reminding them that it is absolutely not normal, nor is this something that we're going to tolerate.
Yeah, I just had my local GOP, the head of my local GOP today, call me up and ask me what in the world I thought I was doing, that I was going to charge my sheriff with derelict of duty. Well, I'm sorry, when there's duties and lawful acts prescribed to you under MCL in our state, and you flat out tell me that you will not be investigating something and you will be instructing your entire department not to investigate something, a crime, or even the evidence of a possible crime, I would flat out consider that derelict of duty. I don't care if you've been in 15 parades and you've kissed 200 babies and shaken 700 people's hands and stopped 3 B&Es. At that moment that you tell me that something prescribed to you, something very important, we won't go into details because I've done a past episode on all the evidence, but when you outright tell me that you will not and are going to not investigate what I've given you and instruct your entire department to do the same thing, I would definitely classify that under our Michigan Constitution as derelict of duty. I will not stand for anybody from the local level all the way up. I don't care what charade you put on. I don't care what you do on the weekends. I don't care what you go out here and go on rants about and tell the different people. It's like Donna said earlier, we want to see what you do. We want to see you out here doing the right thing. And the biggest excuse I get is how thin the budget is for things like this. How thin the budget is.
Can I put this into perspective for you? Because and your viewers, because I like money, I downloaded the Michigan budget. I've been kicking through the departments, and there is so much waste there, and it's just incredible. Do you know how much money we put in, even federally, how much money comes in? It's absolutely criminal. We're taking in $325 billion a month, and our debt is $44 billion. There's plenty of money there. The problem is spending. They're spending money on stupid stuff, like a shrimp on a treadmill. I actually saw that. And, in one of the things I was looking at, it was a grant for a fund for for shrimp on a treadmill. The latest thing that I saw was the Christmas tree gifting that they did at the end of the year. $177 million went into some projects that should have been funded privately, that they took our tax money and they put them into these projects that were they good projects? I don't know. Some of them were, but none of them should have been funded in that way. $177 million, this state, this legislature, flushed down the toilet on things that should have been funded privately. Now let me ask you this. If they're going to throw this kind of money around with their little Christmas tree funds that they were doing there, it wasn't funding Christmas trees, but that's what it's called. Why did they not maybe think about some other things they could have put it into? Like maybe this should have gone to the Flint water system or the Benton Harbor system where people are being actually poisoned. Why did they put this into fluff projects just in order to do favors for people in their district? That's exactly what's it. Why didn't they do something to help veterans who have underfunded care? Why is it that politicians are getting paid more money than our veterans or our police officers, the people that actually or our military? Why are politicians getting paid more than people who put their lives at risk every day? I don't understand that. Well, they sit up there with the lobbyists and everybody else, throwing money around, promising what they're doing, and making backroom deals. I am not happy about this. And I posted that. I write every single word to my Telegram account. Telegram is at Donna or at Brandenburg 4MI is my Telegram handle. And I write every word on there. And I posted that on there because I was doing an analysis of this. And seeing how much money they have no control of this whatsoever. And they don't want control of it. It is about spending. We don't have to pay more tax money. They're laundering money. And all you have to do is look at the road construction, go 20 miles and look at what's happening there. Why is it we have 20 miles of barrels? And 150, I did this. I put a camera on my dashboard so I could document it because I was traveling around the state. 20 miles of barrels that I'm looking at. I couldn't believe it. And they had about 150 yards of equipment. Are you kidding me? I want to know who has the contract for the barrels right now. Seriously, I absolutely serious about that. And I'm going to tell you right now, if we don't have a high-level manager in there and somebody who's a CEO that can knock this thing apart, we got a problem. I had Christy Hutcherson ask me to come up to Alma when they were fighting the refugee resettlement up there, and I knocked apart the 990s of Bethany Christian Services to tell people what they had. And I'm like, this is criminal, what they're doing. And to look at what we're doing with our federal government, the federal government is funding human trafficking, because that's exactly what it is. And we had, in that 990s, they had taken in $405 million over the last 5 years. Bethany did. This is a big business.
Especially when it comes to the children. I personally know two different people. One person received 3 different phone calls because she is she does foster care. And she does in-betweens for, when a child's going from one place to another, or they just got taken out of the home and they're waiting, or whatever the case may be. 3 different phone calls asking if she could house 6. Now, mind you, she already has 2 children of her own and 3 that she has through foster care that she's had for quite some time. And 6 refugee children. 6 refugee children on top of the ones that they knew she already had. Then my other friend, they were actually trying, because she does the foster care system, they were trying to remove the child that she had in her home to put in a refugee child up in Traverse City.
Well, let me tell you what they were doing there. They're getting $3 million a year from this budget for Bethany. They're getting $43 million a year from the federal government for refugee and immigration services. That's more money than they take in for adoption, crisis management, or foster care. That's a lot of money that they're taking in. So I said to him, let me just chop the $3 million a year off the top of that. And let's look, I'll be nice to you as a CEO and say $40 million a year that's coming from our federal government for immigration and refugee services. All right. I went to their website, and by their own admission, they have serviced with $200 million. They have serviced 5,600 and some odd people. Are you kidding me? Do the math. This is coming from our federal government to fund this. And then I found another article that there were 81 kids that disappeared from the border, and magically they showed up in Michigan under the care of Bethany. No documentation. My question is right now is if there were 81 kids that disappeared from the border and showed up in Michigan, how many more did they not find? I want to know, because there's an answer there somewhere. And I don't know if there was. I would like to think that there wasn't. I hope that there isn't any. But until somebody starts asking these questions based on understanding how numbers, economics works, economic warfare that we've seen, Michigan's in trouble. And what I've been spending my time on is chasing this stuff down and getting answers and requiring people to provide answers that we can put out in front of the voters, so they can make the voters as well as citizens, so we can have a responsible, transparent government. And I will not be quiet about this. I absolutely will not be quiet. What about all the fetuses and things that they found in the roofs of these funeral homes over by Detroit? Nobody wants to talk about this stuff. We have to talk about this stuff. And it's going to be brutal for a lot of people. I'm really sorry. But there comes a point in time when adults step in between the threats that are there to children who are defenseless, and we actually pony up and do our jobs as adults to protect each other and defend. I mean, I'm sorry, but if we can't look at this, we're nothing more or better than what they are. We're complicit. We either stand and we fight, we address these hard things, and we see these people, or we're complicit in the crimes. Every bit.
Absolutely, and the hopes that I do get comes from people that do the types of things that we do, that get out to the citizens and are on the citizens level and knows what it takes to be a real person in this world. I mean, somebody like Joe Biden, for example, that guy he forgot how to be a real person 30 years ago, if not longer than that. He's been a senator since he was 32, and he's like almost 80 years old now. The people we have in there, we have to have term limits on every single office. It should not be something you make a career out of. And the more and more these things get talked about, the more and more it seems like that these are going to become absolute because right now frontline issues are election integrity, our children, and a few other matters. And I'm thinking and hoping that once this wave of liberty comes over us, because we have to have these turnouts, the roles have been purged. The roles have been forced to be purged. So there's nothing to make up anything or have any shenanigans go on come 2022 and 2024. If they do, it'll be really apparent. That's why we need every one of you guys. Every single one of you. We need every single one of you to show up this coming November and in 2024. We need you guys to show up. Don't give up. Don't give
We
up.
we have to rectify what was done in 2020. We can't let a crime be committed and leave it laying there. We need a full forensic audit, and we have to go back and write that election. If we don't, because we've been lied to for so long, they're going to say, oh, yeah, this is what happened, but we aren't going to do this again. Right. I've got a bridge to sell you.
Yeah.
They're going to until there's consequences. And the people who have committed any types of fraud or electioneering, I've seen electioneering I saw electioneering going on, and that's current actually. And so unless we get these corrupt people out and that there's a consequence for their actions, for any fraud that was committed from top to bottom, it doesn't matter who they are. I don't care if they're at the top or at the bottom. If they participated in electioneering, they are guilty of treason against this country. And that comes with some pretty stiff penalties. And I'm a big fan of delivering them all, their sorry behinds, to Gitmo and see how well they do when they get in front of an actual military tribunal as someone who is honestly not going to bend because of all of the connections politically that they have, and give them a pass.
Absolutely. And they don't realize they've severely underestimated the power of the people based off of the world that they have enveloped us in. I know for me, I've gotten to a point to where it almost seems like you're separate from the world. It's almost like you're standing outside of everything that's been made up, and it's all made up. That kids nowadays don't even have their own personality. And what I mean by that is their personality is two of their favorite athletes and one of their favorite superheroes. Now, growing up, we looked up to people, but it comes back to, once again, that individualism being ripped from you. They want you to act a certain way. They want you to be a certain way. They want you to emulate certain things. And these are the molds that we have to break out of, and we have to realize that none of this is for the good of us. And this isn't just an American problem. This is a world problem. Go look at Agenda 2030. That'll be a real eye-opener for anybody that's wanting to start out on their research. We're coming up at about an hour and a half right now, and that extra half hour was still fantastic because we've been waiting for this episode, because one of the main reasons being that I want you guys to know, everybody out there watching that lives in our state, I want you guys to know that you have options. I meet people that don't even know who Donna is or Ryan is, or some of them even don't know who Garrett Saldano is, which that's for better or worse, strictly my opinion. Do your own research. But that's one of the main reasons why I have this show, is so that you guys know that you have other options, that you don't have to just go along single file and, we have this choice and this choice. We have the two choices, same broken system that we've always had. I want you guys to understand and know that there's people out there that are literally fighting a lot of us out of our own pocket. And not that that's a big deal. We love what we do. But we want you guys to understand that there's a lot of us out here that want to fight for you guys at whatever cost. At whatever cost. If it means spending 2 days, my most recent case, 2 days and $60 worth of gas to bring you guys Operation Fast Track, courtesy of Curtis and Patriot approved. It doesn't matter. We want you guys to know that there's people out here that truly want to fight for you and what's at your best interest, and not what's going to line their pocket or one of their friends' pockets. And if you guys want any more information on what I'm doing or what Donna's doing, you can join me over at www.hobsonforboard.com. If you guys, if you're seeing this courtesy of Facebook and you can't find my YouTube, it's a great place to find it. And vice versa, if you're seeing this on YouTube and you can't find me on Facebook, we all know why. So once again, the website all the way down at the bottom is a great place to find me doing all these shows. We got a great lineup coming for you guys here in the next few weeks. Lots of guests that are going to be lined up to come on and give you guys more information that you need about what's going on in our state. If you guys are ever so kind as to drop any likes, shares, now we're on YouTube, so I guess that subscribe button as well. It's all greatly appreciated. We're on locals. And like I told you guys earlier, we're slowly getting that Rumble account built up. So if you guys want to follow us on any of those things, it is always so greatly appreciated. Every time we get the name out, every time we get the message out, it's fantastic. And what is all the places where they can find you as well, Donna?
Well, my website is brandenburgforgovernor.com. On Telegram, it's Brandenburg, the number 4MI. And I've got a personal blog that's Donna 4MI, number 4MI. But if you go to the website, just brandenburgforgovernor.com, you'll find Instagram, you'll find Rumble, you'll find Facebook, you'll find all of our social media that we have going on there. And pretty much anything you need to know. I've cut quite a few videos, and I'm cutting videos all the time, talking about different subjects and what we need to know to actually analyze a subject, to create and have a good plan, not just a headline, what the components are for that. So if you go to brandenburgforgovernor.com, you'll find everything there. And all I'd like to say is, everybody's thank you for all the support. I have just had overwhelming support from people across the state. They like hearing the truth, and I don't hold it back from anybody. They like hearing more information than sometimes they're used to hearing from a politician, which I think is pretty helpful. And I would very much love your support as far as follow me, share information, sign up to get involved with the campaign. We're going to try to run this thing financially very, very lean. I'm not going to be out there begging for money all the time. I'm going to be asking you for your involvement and to help take this back. We need campaign finance reform desperately, because right now you can't run unless you have megabucks behind you. And a lot of times those megabucks is what's controlling our politicians. We need to change that. So I guess I would say that it would be my pleasure to serve as the next governor of the state of Michigan. It's a service, and I would be so honored to be put into that position.
Absolutely, and this is the type of power, people like this, that we need in these seats. These are the types of things that we need to expect out of our elected officials, is 100% transparency, answering questions, not hiding things behind curtains. And we will continue to bring you guys all these people that are going to fight for us in 2022 and forevermore, and continue to uphold what we want in our state and country, and not what these globalists want in their overall reign. And I thank you again so much, Donna, for coming on. It was great to finally get you on here.
Thank you. It's been a pleasure.
Awesome. Yes, for me too. Absolutely. And I think that is going to do us for this week, you guys. It was great being back. It was nice having a nice, long, informative show, a little bit longer than my normal half hours I've been doing, but it was the first time getting a nice guest back. It was the first live back after our YouTube ban. Yeah, we'll see how much longer we live on here, guys. That's why the Rumble account is going up. But it's like I say on Facebook all the time, they're not going to stop what's coming. It doesn't matter how many people they shut down and how many of us they mute. They are not going to stop what's coming. And it's like I always tell you guys,